Hey, also in this video for your final exam review, I'm going to go over numbers 1 through 19. So just a heads up, these are the numbers from the reviews that I'll be going over in this video. So like here, we're just matching our expression. So like this is just 2i times 8. Well, that's just 16i. So that's why number 1 is B. Then number 2, now you have to remember your pattern, right? So you've got I to the 0 is 1, I to the 1 is I squared is -1, and I to the third is -I. So notice how you have 16 times I to the third. Well, that's the same as 16 times -I, which then gives you -16i. So that's why here the answer was C. Then number 2. Now this is 2i to the fourth power, which is 2i times 2i times 2i times 2i, right? Because that's 2i to the fourth power. So this gets you 16 from 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and then that's I to the fourth, because notice you have I times I times I times I. So then you can go ahead, right, and then divide by 4. Well, 4 divided by 4 is just 1, but 1 whole, right? So that is the same as saying that this is 16 times I to the 0, because 4 divided by 4 is 1, and there's no quarters left over, 1 whole. And I to the 0 is 1. So it's just 16 times 1, which is 16. So that's why here the answer was B, leaving you with number 4 being D, because that is 2i times 8i. Well, 2 times 8 is 16, but I times I is I squared, and I squared is -1. So there's your -16. So now here for number 5, we're just practicing our simplifying here. So notice how this is 2 times. Well, the square root of -49. Well, that is 7i. So that's why here we have 14i. Now notice how this is -3 times. Well, the square root of -10. Well, I can't do anything with the square root, but except take out I, and then radical 10. We can only take out the -1. So that's why here we've got -3i times the square root of 10. Then here, notice how the square root is only over the numerator. So that's why here we're only going to take the square root up top, which is 5i over 36. Sorry, I'm being slow here. So 36. Then the conjugate. So remember, for the conjugate, you only change the sign of the imaginary part. That's it. So if I want to know what is the conjugate here, then that is changing the sign of -6i. So you keep 10, but now plus 6i. Same thing here. You only change the sign of the imaginary. So now this is -10, but minus 6i. So there's your conjugate. Now number 7, we're going to choose 2 expressions that are equivalent to 8 plus 16i. So this is our complex number. So like A here, I've got 2 times 4 plus 8i. Well, 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 times 8i is 16i. So that's why A is one of our answers. So then let's check B here. So 2i times 8, well, that's 16i. Then 2i times -4i, right? Well, 2 times -4 is -8. Notice how you have I times I times I squared. And if you recall, right, just like when we were doing box method, whenever we had I squared, what happens to our value? It changes our sign because it's a -1. So really this is 16i plus 8, or 8 plus 16i. So that's why the answer here is B. So just to show you like why the answer is not C, 4 times 2i is 8i, and then 4 times -4 is -16. Well, that's got everything switched up, right? So it's not C. Then D, well, you're subtracting. What do you have to do first when subtracting? Distribute the -1. So really this +12 is -12, and -14i is +14i. So notice how here, sorry about this, when combining, we're not even at 16i because that's 14i minus 2i, which is 12i. That's why it's not D. And here, remember, 2i minus 4i to the second power is the same as 2 minus 4i times itself, 2 minus 4i. And then do box method, but you would see that that would not be an answer here either. All right, so that's going through and simplifying the expressions to see what will get you 8 plus 16i. Now 8 and 9 are review on our solving equations. So notice how here that we are solving for x. Well, always add or subtract first here, right? So we're going to subtract 15 from both sides because that's what's positive here. Bring down 9x squared, which is equal to, now that's 0 minus 15, so that's still negative 15. You can't take the square root yet though, right? Because it's being multiplied by 9. So now what are we going to do? Divide by 9, right? Do the opposite operation. X squared is now equal to, keep the fraction, negative 15 over 9. Now we can take the square root. Well, notice we're taking the square root of a negative value, so I need I in my answer. So I'm going to cross out A and B. And do I need to take the square root of 9? Yes, because notice how the entire fraction, we are taking the square root of both top numerator and bottom denominator. So that's why the answer is D, the square root of 15 over 3. Now, number 9, though, notice how we had this expression in parentheses. So this one's different. However, we have to get the parentheses by itself. See how we're subtracting 10? So what do we need to do first? Add the 10, right? So add the 10. So I've got, so I'm going to bring this down here. So x plus 4 squared, it's being a little slow. Bring down, so x plus 4 squared is equal to negative 14 plus 10, which is negative 4. Now what can we do here now that the parentheses are by themselves? Take the square root. So now canceling out, I bring down x plus 4, which is equal to the square root of negative 4. Now we're solving an equation, so we need plus or minus, right? Don't drop that. 2i, because that's the square root of negative 4. Now what do we need to do here to solve for x? Well, if we're adding 4, subtract 4. So notice how that is a negative 4 here, not positive 4, and we can't combine them. So negative 4 plus or minus 2i. That's why the answer here is B. So now number 10, we're solving a system of equations. So what do we have to do? Well, you can graph in Desmos, right? Because what is the solution? Where they intersect, right? Where they cross. So graph in Desmos, and it's going to look like this. So notice, and again, if you need to, move the window so you can see that there are two solutions here at 1, 3 and negative 3, negative 5. So do not focus on where it crosses the x. That's just the x-intercepts. What we need to focus on is, for the solution, is where the two graphs cross each other, which is at these 2 points here. So that's why here the answer is C and F. So now number 11. Here we're looking at our graph here, and we're going to select two statements that apply. Well, here I've got the maximum shows that the skydiver jumped from 12 feet. Well, nope, that's not where it jumped from. That's not the starting height. So A is not an answer. So now let's go to B. The y-intercept shows the skydiver jumped from a height of 10 feet. So the y-intercept now, right, where we're at the y. Are we starting here at 10 feet? Absolutely. So that's why here we've got B. The local minimum shows the length of the practice session was 10.5 minutes. Well, the local minimum is here, and that is definitely not at 10.5 minutes. We're at 1.5. So C is not an answer. The x-intercept, so x-intercept, which is here, shows that the length of the practice session was 15 minutes. That is your second. Because then notice how after 4 minutes, so 4 minutes, where is the skydiver? Here at 8 feet, not at 1 foot. So there's your 2. now number 12. Remember degree, that is the exponent. So again, we are not just at 3, because remember this x minus 2 here, this 0 also has an exponent of 1. So that's why we have a degree of 4. Then if you recall the difference between real and unique zeros, well, unique, when I think of someone who's unique, they're different, they're special, right? So how many different unique zeros do we have here? Well, we only have 2. We have x is equal to -5 and x is equal to +2, because remember, right, change the signs. So that there are only 2 unique zeros. That's why the answer here is A. So then question 13 and 14. So again, still looking at our graphs here. So now question 13, which statement is true? So the number of cookies sold at the bakery increased between 5 and 6. So here's our days, 5 and 6. Well, nope, it didn't increase, it went down, decreased. So the answer is not A. The number of cookies sold is increasing on the interval 9 to 11. So let's check to see B. From 9 to 11. Well, it does increase, but then decreases. So nope, answer is not B either. So now let's go to C. The company sold the maximum amount of cookies between the first and second days. So here's our maximum. And where are we at? We are at about, 1 to 2 days here. So this is our maximum. That's why the answer is C. Then you can also see here that, oh, that's right. We're looking for 2 answers. Sorry about that. I was like, wait a second. Then here's our second answer here. On day 6, the company sold 50 cookies. So there you go. There's your 2. So now 14. So first off, we're looking to see again now which statement is true. We'll notice that this is an odd function, not even. So I'm going to cross it out. Then how many zeros are there? 1, 2, 3. And they're all a slice. So there's no multiplicity to consider. So that's at 3, not 2. So now let's check the end behavior. As x approaches infinity, right? So as we're going to the right to infinity, what is our end approaching? Infinity. So that's why the answer here is C. So again, to show you why the answer is not D, over the interval 1 to 2. So right here, read it left to right. Notice how these values are below and they're in the negative here, not positive, and decreasing. That's why the answer here is C. So now I'm going to end with our rational expressions. So with question 15, we are just simplifying. So first off here, we need to make sure to factor our numerator and denominator, right? So here we go. Well, square root of 100 is 10. So here we've got x plus 10 and x minus 10. Now, we're going to need to factor our denominator. So here we go. What numbers multiply to get a negative 70? So that means if we're multiplying to get a negative, I need different signs, right? Positive and a negative. And add to get -3. So factors of 70, 10 and 7. But because the 3 is negative, -10, +7. But again, always check in the calculator, right? Like if you put +10, -7, and then check it, you would have seen that you would have gotten +3, not negative. So switch the sign. Now we can simplify, right? Because what factor is in common? X minus 10. Now, I'm throwing this at you because it's not in the review, but what does this X minus 10 represent? The whole, right? If you were to actually graph this. So here we're going to simplify, but that would be the whole, right? At X is equal to +10, because we would change the sign. So this simplified would be X plus 10 over X plus 7. So now adding. In order to add, we have to have the same denominator. Now notice, boom, in the denominator, don't just cross multiply, because see how we have 3 terms here? So we need to factor the 3 here. So what numbers multiply to get 8 and add to get a -6? So both are going to be negative, because 2 negatives multiplied make a positive, but add to get your negative. So what 2 factors multiply to get 8, add to get 6? 4 and 2. So x minus 4, x minus 2. So now notice, here in the other, right, is the x minus 2. So what's missing? The x minus 4. So that is what we need to multiply to the 2 here, is the x minus 4. So now we can distribute, right, the 2 to x minus 4. So 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 4, negative 8. Just bring down, right, the plus 3x squared. Because it's over what we factored, so no need to touch it. Now we combine like terms. Well, are there any like terms to combine? Sure not. So that's it. That's your numerator over the x minus 4 times x minus 2 with our factored, or you can leave it as is. So same thing for the subtracting. Now, can we do anything here about the denominators, like in terms of factoring? Nope. So this is like a cross multiply. So here, that means we're going to multiply 3 by 5x plus 6 and multiply x by the x plus 2. So here we go. Well, x times x is x squared. That's x times x. Then x times 2 is 2x here. Now be careful though, because I just also said this too, and I'm whoopsie daisy. We're not multiplying this by 3. We're multiplying by negative 3 because we're subtracting. So negative 3 times 5x, negative 15x. Then negative 3 times 6, negative 18. Now combine like terms, which we do have, 2x minus 15x. So x squared, 2 minus 15, negative 13x minus 18 over the denominator, 5x plus 6 and x plus 2. So now 18 and 19. So remember, we got to change these because there was the typo. So here, this was supposed to be x squared plus 5x minus 6. And this was supposed to be 4x minus 4. So sorry about that. And then also here, number 19. This was supposed to be just, so the numerator and denominator here for our first fraction. So this was supposed to be x plus 3 and just 7 here. So here we go. Now, we're dividing. So what does that mean when we have to divide? First, keep, change, and flip. So we're going to keep our first here, right? So x plus 3 over x squared plus 5x minus 6. We're going to multiply that by. Now flip it. 4x minus 4 over x squared plus 8x plus 15. So now let's start our factoring, right? So here we go. Can we do anything with x plus 3? Nope. Bring it down. But we can sure divide, or not divide, factor right here. So what numbers multiply to get negative 6, right? So positive and a negative. And add to get 5. 6 and 1. Positive 6 and negative 1. So now let's go to our next. Can we do anything here with 4x minus 4? Yes, because you can take out and divide both by 4. So here we go. Now we've got our x here, but now what's minus? Not 4 anymore, right? Because we divide by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. Over, now again, we can factor. So here we go. What numbers multiply to get 15? So positive, and add to get 8. 5 and 3. So now that we've got everything set up, now it's all about just start simplifying and canceling out whatever is in common top and bottom. So like, what do you see? X plus 3 and x minus 1. So notice what is still up top. 4 over x plus 6 times x plus 5. So now 19. Here, we're solving our equation. Well, all we've got here are 7 and 6, right, in our denominator. So what do we have to do to solve? Cross multiply. So 6 times x plus 3, right? So that's 6x plus 18. 6 times x, 6 times 3. So then same thing here, that's 7 times x plus 1. Now notice we are solving an equation, so we do need to bring down our equal, right, because we're solving. And then again, sorry, yep, 7 times x, 7x. 7 times 1 is 7. So now we can start solving for x. Notice, guys, though, that we've got variables on different sides, right? So we need to, there we go, we need to gather our variable. So I'm going to subtract 6x here from both sides. Bring down 18 is equal to, well, now that's just 1x, or x, plus 7. So now what's the last step to solve? Subtract 7. And that's how you get here, x is equal to 11. So notice here, just simplifying. Now see how we're adding? So that's why we need to combine like terms here, but there was nothing to combine. Same thing here. See how we were subtracting, distribute, then combine. The moment, though, that you have an equation, you are solving by doing the inverse operations here to solve for x and end up with x is equal to 11.